Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, how are you today? I hope that you are in good condition and happy situation. So we are from group 4 and we're gonna explain and discuss about some material in syntax. There are criteria of word classes, syntax and lexical items, individual verb, complement and adjunct, classes of verb and subcategorization restriction, sectional restriction, classes of noun, subcategorization, selection and construction, and also fixed phrases. So our member are Zaki Hudan Fahmi, Aisyah Nur Fatia, Ida Fitria Salsabila, and Lovina Naseha. So yeah, uh, without any further to do, let's we check it out the video and contains of many information that can help you to find and understand about syntax.
The first, word classes. Criteria for word classes. Four types of criteria are employed to set up word classes: syntactic, morphological, morphosyntactic, and semantic. Semantic criteria have to do with meaning. The explanation of morphological and morphosyntactic criteria, which have to do with what is called inflectional morphology. Consider the English examples: the tiger is smiling and the tigers are smiling. The contrast between tigers and tigers show that tigers can be split into tiger and s. Tiger is the stem and s is the suffix added to the end of this stem. The stem tiger is a noun and the addition of s does not affect this property. In contrast, the addition of ish does affect it. Tiger is a noun but tigerish is an adjective. Suffixes such as ish that derive new lexical items are derivational suffixes. Suffixes that express grammatical information such as plural and are inflectional suffixes. The term comes from the Latin verb flectere, to bend, and is connected with the idea that in the language such as Russian, with a multitude of inflectional suffixes, nouns, verbs, and adverbs have a basic form that is bent by the addition of a suffix. Morphological Criterion. The singular form criterion is used in the heading because what is at stake is simply whether a given word allows grammatical suffixes or not. This criterion is the least important of the four listed above and is more relevant to some languages than others. It is of the greatest interest with respect to language such as Russian, in which nouns have different suffixes ending in the traditional, informal terminology, depending on their relationship to the verb. Examples are given in 1a Sobaka Lajala, dog barked, the dog barked. B. Soka Trasapala Sobaku, cat sketched dog, the cat sketched the dog. And C. Peter dal Sobakekos, Peter gave dog bone, Peter gave. The noun Sobaka in 1a split into the stem Sobaka and the suffix a, which here signals the animal doing the barking in 1b. Sobak has its direct object suffix u, which here marks the animal being sketched in 1c. It has its oblique object suffix a, which here marks the recipient of the bone. A few nouns in Russian take no suffixes, for example taxi, cafe, and kakadu. Such nouns do not vary their shape and are called invariable words. English does not have the same rank of grammatical suffixes as Russian, but English nouns typically take a plural ending: fish, fishes, cat, cats, and dog, dogs. The S represent different suffixes in speech. In cats, it represents the initial sound of speech. In dogs, in the initial sound of Z. Some nouns in English do not take a plural suffix. For example, sheep, deer, and are said to be invariable. The next more for syntactic criteria. These criteria have to do with inflectional suffixes, as described above in connection with the tiger examples, and the information signaled by them, and were developed on the basis of languages such as Classical Latin and Classical Greek. Examples: 1e show that nouns in Russian take different suffixes which signal the relationship between the nouns and the verb in a clause. These relationships are known as case, and nouns are said to be inflected for the category of case. Case derives from the Latin word of all casus. Suffix in Indo-European language. Consider 2a sobaki lanjut. Dogs bark. The dogs are barking. 2b Peter dal kos sobakam. Peter gave bone to dogs. Peter gave a bone to the dogs. In 1a, sobaki is the subject but also plural, and it has a different suffix. In 2b, sobakam refers to the recipient and is plural, and it too has a different suffix from the one in 1c. That is, the case suffixes actually signal information about case and about numbers. Verbs in Russian signal information about time, person, and number, as illustrated in number 3. 3e, go for it. Moscow speaks about Moscow. The example: he or she is speak about Moscow. B. Go for jet a Moscow. Speak about Moscow. They are speaking about Moscow. Go for Jew of Moscow. Speak I about Moscow. The example: I'm speaking about Moscow. And D. Go for Lily of Moscow. Spoke about Moscow. They were speaking about Moscow. Examples 3e and D all refer to an event of speaking about Moscow. 3e and 3b place that event in present time. The speaker, as its word says, I'm speaking to you now, and they are speaking about Moscow. Example 3d present the event in past time. The speaker can be imagined as saying, I'm speaking to you now, and at some before this they were speaking about Moscow. The next syntactic criteria. The syntactic criteria for word classes are based on what words a given word occurs with and the types of phrases in which a given word occurs. Syntactic criteria are the most important. They are important for English with relative property of morphosyntactic criteria, and they are crucial for the analysis of word classes in general because they are languages such as Mandarin Chinese, which have practically no inflectional suffixes, such as plural endings. In contrast, all languages have syntax. The recognition of syntactic criteria as central is a major step forward. but the application of these criteria is not straightforward. Consider the English words that are called nouns. They all have several properties in common. Namely, they can occur in various positions relative to the verb in the clause. The example for A until C: A. The dog stole the turkey. B. The children killed the dog. C. The cook saved no scraps for the dog. Down to information about individuals' words, a concept that is central to discuss of word classes and indeed to any class of items, linguistic for non-linguistic, is that of the central and peripheral members of a class. Consider the adjective tall in the examples in 5a. A tall building. B. This building is tall. C. A very tall building. D. 1. A taller building. And D2. A more beautiful building. There are two criteria labeled D because some adjectives take the comparative suffix while others do not allow that suffix but require more. Some adjectives like tall meet all the criteria in 5 and are central or prototypical members of the class. Some adjectives fail to meet all the criteria. The next, semantic criteria. What does mean? There are no semantic criteria aspects of the meaning of the different classes of words that would enable us to decide whether any given word is a noun, adjective, verb, adverb, or preposition. The key move in the investigation of word classes is to accept that word classes must be defined on the basis of formal criteria, their morphological properties, their morphosyntactic properties, and their syntactic properties. How do formal criteria and the concept of criterial members of a word class help the investigation of meaning? Interestingly, the traditional description of nouns as referring to person, places, and things turns out to be adequate for central nouns. Nouns such as girl, tone, and car combine with the and take the plural suffix as are modified by adjectives and occur to be left or the right of the verb in non-copula active declarative clauses. The next, semantic criteria. What speakers do with words? They act to produce sound or marks on paper, but the purpose of producing the sound in many situations is to draw the attention of their audience to some entity and to say something about it, to predicate a property of it. Example of acts. Let us use the generally accepted term speech act, are making statements, asking questions, and using commands in the broadcast sense. Next, the lexicon. Syntax and lexical item. Why have a chapter on dictionaries in a book on syntax? Syntax cannot be isolated from other areas of language. An individual lexical item, particularly verb, exercise strong control over syntactic structure. Structure: some verb combined with one noun phrase, other with two and a third set of verbs with 3, some singular noun combined with the and some exclude them. Information about the interplay between lexical item and syntactic structure. The example, knife, an instrument for cutting. Verb intransitive, to cut. Knifeless, knifing, the act of putting a knife into someone. Where to the knife have one's knife in. The entry gives some information about syntax. The verb is described as transitive, which means that is the basic active declarative construction. It requires a noun placed to its right. There is a rough guide to the pronunciation, which does not use the International Phonetic Alphabet. A definition of the meaning of the noun. 2 words that are derived from the basic stem and 2 idiomatic phrases.
Okay, next is individual verbs, complement, and adjunct. Every type of phrase has a head, and the modifiers of head fall into the two classes of complement and adjunct. Adjunct and complements are the two main elements in a sentence. However, there is a big difference between these two elements. Complement is a word or phrase that is used to complete the meaning of a given sentence. And adjunct are parts of sentences that contain additional information. They don't need to complete the meaning of the sentence. The main difference between addition and complement is that addition is optional for a sentence and complement is an important part of a sentence. For example, Sarah devoured the cakes in the kitchen last night. In the kitchen and last night are adjunct. Pertanyaannya, kenapa in the kitchen dan last night kita sebut dengan adjunct? Simpelnya gini, adverb of time and location atau yang biasa kita sebut dengan adverb of place itu kita sebut dengan adjunct. Nah, di sini in the kitchen itu sebagai tempat yang menunjukkan tempat dan last night itu yang menunjukkan waktu. So, in the kitchen and last night itu kita sebut dengan adjunct. Nah, contoh yang kedua yaitu Sarah barged into the kitchen. A verb such as barge requires a directional adverb. Jadi barge di sini menunjukkan keterangan arah, yaitu menerobos. Sarah menerobos kemana? Nah, di sini kita membutuhkan sebuah complement untuk melengkapi directional adverb tersebut, yaitu into the kitchen. Adverb of direction. Adverb of direction is one of type of adverb which is used to explain which way a place is, where a job, action, deed, or quality is done or an event occurs. According to expert, this adverb in English can be classified as an adverb of place. Oke, masih dalam pembahasan tentang individual verbs, complement, and adjunct. Di sini ada beberapa contoh. Contoh pertama yaitu Mr. Knightley despaired. Despaired di sini mengecualikan frasa kata benda di sebelah kanannya, yaitu kayak seakan-akan tidak membutuhkan atau yang biasa kita sebut dengan intransitive verb. Nah, yang kedua itu ada Emma slighted Miss Bates. Slighted di sini itu membutuhkan satu complement seperti contohnya yaitu Emma slighted Miss Bates. Di sini complementnya yaitu Miss Bates. Yang ketiga itu Frank Churchill gave Jane Fairfax a piano. Nah, pada contoh ini gave di sini memungkinkan atau membutuhkan dua frasa kata benda di sebelah kanannya, seperti yang ada di contoh, yaitu di sini ada Jane Fairfax dan a piano. Oke, contoh selanjutnya yaitu ada Jane Fairfax seemed upset. Nah, di sini seemed itu sebuah kata kerja yang membutuhkan frasa untuk melengkapi kalimatnya, yaitu di sini ada upset. Nah, upset ini pelengkap untuk kata sebelumnya yaitu seemed. Selanjutnya yaitu Mr. Woodhouse sat in an armchair.
Nah, set di sini memerlukan sebuah frasa preposisi yang menjelaskan tentang lokasi. Lokasi di mana Mr. Woodhouse itu duduk. Nah, pada contoh di sini dijelaskan yaitu in an armchair. Nah, selanjutnya yaitu Mr. Knightley walked into the drawing room. Walk di sini memerlukan sebuah frasa preposisi yang menjelaskan arah kemana Mr. Knightley itu berjalan, yaitu pada contoh di sini menjelaskan into the drawing room. Selanjutnya yaitu Mr. Elton handed his wife into the carriage. Nah, handed di sini memerlukan dua frasa. Yang pertama frasa kata benda di sebelah kanannya, yaitu his wife, dan juga frasa preposisi yang menjelaskan tentang arah kemana, gitu, yaitu into the carriage. Nah, selanjutnya Emma gave bad advice to Harriet. Nah, pada contoh ini tidak semua kata kerja memberi, kata kerja give itu menugaskan berperilaku seperti memberi. Nah, di sini kan contohnya Emma gave bad advice to Harriet. Emma memberi nasihat buruk kepada Harriet. Itu berbeda dengan Emma memberi sebuah apel kepada Harriet. Jadi konteks di sininya konteks memberi di sini itu berbeda. Jadi saya jelaskan lagi bahwa tidak semua kata kerja memberi itu tugasnya berperilaku seperti memberi, gitu. Okay, next is classes of verbs and subcategorization restrictions. Some of these classes of verbs have traditional labels as listed in 6. These labels are convenient for talking about classes of verbs rather than individual verbs. The first, despairs. Intransitive verb excludes a noun phrase to its right as in to a. Then slide. Transitive verb requires a noun phrase to its right as in to be. Gave, the transitive verb, twice transitive, requires to noun phrase to its right as in to see. Then said, intransitive locational verb includes a noun phrase to its right but requires a prepositional phrase as in, like in for a. Then handed, transitive directional verb requires to its right both a noun phrase and a directional phrase. And the last seemed, copula or linking verb requires to its right an adjective phrase as in tree or a noun phrase as in seemed and sensible person, or a prepositional phrase as in seemed in good spirits, or an infinitive as in seemed to be unhappy. Oke, masih membahas tentang classes of verbs and subcategorization restriction. Di sini ada contoh. Yang pertama, Eleanor blamed Willoughby for Marina's unhappiness. Dan B, Eleanor blamed Marina's happiness on Willoughby. Nah, di sini fokusnya pada perbedaan antara blamed on sama blamed for. Blamed on is referring to what you are saying that a particular person is accountable for something. For example, we cannot blame it on them, so it's correct for this. Then blame for. Blame for is referring to what you are going to hold them accountable for. For example, we cannot blame them for it, so it's correct for this also. The construction that lexical verbs place on number and type of constituents, choice of preposition and choice of case are known as subcategorization. Subcategorization is a concept that can apply to most any type of lexical item. It is usually discussed with respect to verb. Verbs that take just one argument are classified as intransitive, while verbs with 2 and 3 arguments are classified as transitive and detransitive, respectively.
Hello everyone, my name is Asia Fatia, and here I would like to deliver a presentation about selectional restriction. Before that, my ID number is 1903046111. So without any further ado, let's start the presentation. Selectional restriction. Lexical entries also contain information about rules assigned to the nouns and verbs. For instance, build and calculate assign agent role to their subject noun and patient role to their direct object noun. In 8, romance is agent and aqueduct is patient. And in 9, computer is agent and value is patient. Like the example, the romance built this aqueduct, and 9, the computer will calculate the value of the variable. In the active declaration construction, the agent is assigned to the noun to the left of the verb. Lexical verb impose restriction on the type of noun that can occur to the left or right. A verb such as blame requires a human noun to its left, while a verb such as kill requires an animate noun to its right. Of course, speakers and writers regularly utter sentences such as 10 and 11. The 10 is the dog blames us for his stay at the fest, and 11 days objections killed the peroxide. Jadi lexical entries itu juga berisi informasi tentang peran yang diberikan pada kata benda dalam sebuah klausa. Agen di sini sebagai subjek dan patient di sini sebagai objek atau noun. Seperti contohnya, the romance built this aqueduct. Di sini romance sebagai agen dan aqueduct sebagai patient. Seperti itu. The computer will calculate the value of variable. Jadi computer sebagai agen dan value sebagai patient. Di dalam active declaration, peran agen itu ditetapkan ke kata benda di sebelah kata kiri kata kerja atau di sebelah kiri subjek. Nah, dalam lexical verb itu ada restriction atau batasan pada jenis kata benda yang dapat muncul di sebelah kiri atau kanannya. Seperti itu. Kata kerja seperti ini membutuhkan kata benda seperti manusia. Contohnya, blame itu membutuhkan kata kerja manusia di sebelah kirinya. Sedangkan kata kerja atau verb seperti kill membutuhkan kata benda yang bernyawa di sebelah kanannya. Jadi, selectional restriction itu adalah batasan dan bagaimana kita memilih kata benda sebagai patient untuk agen sebagai subjek. Kata benda seperti apa, kata kerja seperti apa yang cocok untuk menjadikan patient. So the next we are going to classes of nouns. Sectional restriction, as hint above, lead us to employ large subclasses of nouns that are familiar from traditional grammar. The subclasses are set out in 13. Di sini ada beberapa noun clauses atau kelas-kelas noun. Di sini ada concrete versus abstract, common versus proper noun, count versus miss or countable noun and uncountable noun. So animate versus inanimate, human versus non-human. Common nouns, which are not the names of people, counts, and so on, typically allow or require the or a. For example, lecturer in 14b and sought in 15a. For the example is, Ethel was sitting at her desk. Lecturer was sitting at her desk. The Ethel was sitting at her desk. The lecturer was sitting at her desk. Di sini lebih spesifik lagi apabila kita menambahkan at the. Jadi common nouns itu require the for being a specific noun. Kemudian nomor 15, the greater spirit soul. The greater spirit soul. see too much salt damage vehicles, too many salt. The distinction between common and proper nouns does have a semantic component. Proper nouns are the names of people, places, organizations, and institutions. The distinction is also very important for the grammar of English noun phrases. Proper nouns such as apple in 14a exclude the, and singular common nouns such as lecturer in 14b require the. The plural dozen lecture or wear footstained pullovers and sandals is impeccable in its grammar even if not in its content. The distinction between count and mass noun is involved in important grammatical choices, but likewise has a meaning component. With respect of grammar, mass noun require much, as in 15c and exclude many. Count noun require many and exclude much. With respect to meaning, count nouns refer to entities that are thought of as individuals that can be counted by plain idea. Mass nouns denote entities that are conceived of as a mass of stuff that cannot be split into countable individuals. Water, flour, wine, salt. Mass nouns typically occur in the singular. When they occur in the plural, they change their meaning. Wine has the interpretation kind of wine. In other languages, the distinction between the subclasses of nouns are relevant for the assignment of case. For example, this is demonstrated by the Theologian in example in 16. Jadi di sini count nouns atau kata benda yang dapat dihitung tidak membutuhkan much, tapi membutuhkan many. Dan count noun itu adalah kata benda yang merujuk pada entitas yang dianggap sebagai individu. Seperti yang kita ketahui di example 16, Boris punctual. Second, Boris pick up the glass. Boris punctual. Boris pick up the cake. Second in 16a is inanimate and has no case suffix. Caught is animate and takes the case suffix a. Other patterns in the Eurasian case system involve the distinction between concrete and abstract and between count and mass. But we omit the details. We close this section with a comment on the terms concrete and abstract. Lecturer and wine are examples of concrete noun, while truth and amazement are abstract noun. We are using the traditional labels, but the key distinction is whether a given noun denotes an entity that is abstract or not abstract. The difficulty is that concrete evokes an entity made of the substance called concrete, or at least an entity that is hard and solid. Jadi perbedaan dari konkret dan abstrak noun, di mana konkret noun itu dia bisa disentuh atau bisa terlihat, sedangkan pada abstrak noun kita tidak bisa menyentuh dan tidak bisa merasakannya, tapi kita tidak bisa menyentuh atau memegangnya, tapi kita bisa merasakannya. Seperti di sini adalah truth atau kebenaran, itu kita bisa merasakannya, namun kita tidak bisa menyentuh ataupun memegang kebenaran itu. Sedangkan seperti dosen, seperti anggur, seperti table and others, it's a kind of concrete noun which is we can attach it or even we can hold it. Kata benda yang mass noun itu biasanya adalah menunjukkan entitas yang dipahami sebagai massa barang yang tidak dapat dipecah menjadi individu atau yang tidak dapat dihitung, seperti air, tepung, anggur. Mereka membutuhkan wadah atau membutuhkan suatu tempat untuk menjadikannya bisa dihitung, seperti itu. Okay, maybe that's all for my explanation, and The next explanation and presentation will be continuing by my friend.
Subcategorization is a concept that can apply to most any type of lexical item. It is usually discussed with respect to verbs. Verbs that take just one argument are classified as intransitive, while verbs with two and three arguments are classified as transitive and detransitive respectively. For the example, A. Frank Churchill gave a piano to Jane Fairfax. This is the example from the transitive. B. Frank Churchill gave Jane Fairfax a piano. This is the example from transitive. C. A piano was given to Jane Fairfax by Frank Churchill. This is the example from intransitive. The notes. Transitive verbs are verbs that do not require a direct object or direct object. The sentence pattern is subject and verb. And the next, transitive verbs are verbs that require a direct object or direct object. The sentence pattern is usually subject or verb and direct object. And the last, the transitive verb is one that takes both a direct object and contraction are not isolated structure but fit into a general network. Contraction exists or have been created by the speaker and writer of given language to enable speaker and writer to signal what they are doing with a particular uterine. All the examples in this chapter have been the active declarative contraction, that is, of the basic contraction as defined in chapter 3. The example of contraction A. Frank Churchill gave Jane Fairfax a piano. This is the example from the transitive contraction. B. A piano was given to Jane Fairfax by Frank Churchill. This is the example from passive contraction. A is an example of the transitive contraction. The same lexical item occur, but the animate noun Jane Fairfax is noun phrase immediately following the verb and not preceded by a preposition. And B, an example of the passive contraction. The animate noun Frank Churchill is not to the left of the verb, but it is the right inside a prepositional phrase by Frank Churchill. And the last point, fixed phrase. Fixed phrase are phrases in which the wording cannot be changed without sounding out to native speaker, even if the literal meaning is the same. Fixed phrase as a category also include idioms, which are fixed phrases that mean something different from their literal definition. Over the past 15 years or so, analysts have come to realize that in any language, there is a large set of phrases and even word clauses that are not freely built up but fixes. Following the discussion by Crystal in the Cambridge Encyclopedia of the English Language, we can distinguish various types of fixed phrase. The first, polyword, in a nutshell, one and for all. The second, institutionalist expression. Institutionalist expression, give me a break, how do you do, long time no see, pleased to meet you, see you soon, come to think of it, it doesn't bear thinking about. Third, high-like construction phrase, as I was, or saying or mentioning, as far as I can see or can make out or know. Just can things strike I told you not to do that. Third, sentence builder. My point is that let me begin by not only but also. And the last collocation, staple food, diet, industry, wouldn't, won't, couldn't, budget, a heavy smoker, a heavy drinker.
So guys, finally we are at the end of presentation, and who want to share or give a feedback, just drop in comment box. We do ask for apologize for all mistakes and misunderstanding. And last we say wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.